Poseidon Nickel, Peter Harold, actually submitted a really long bio, which I think made him sound a lot older than he looks anyway. But in short, he's an industrial chemist that got bitten by the nickel bug early in his career and has spent a lot of time in the industry, and probably most notably known for his time at Panoramic Resources, where he built that into a +1 billion dollar company. I think he'll articulate it himself, but he's looking to replicate that with Poseidon. And welcome to the stage.
Thanks, Tim. There's still a few people left, which is good. Hopefully they're all watching on their computers. So yeah, nickel power future. The disclaimer first. Now I think that is a Guinness Book World Record for the most number of words on a single page. Just need to check that, but read that at your leisure. They are getting smaller and smaller. So our investment highlights are basically summed up there on that page. I mean, we've really got the right commodity being nickel. Obviously, we're going to be producing nickel sulfide and into that EV story now, which is just an incredible thematic around the world. We've got a lot of infrastructure already in place, courtesy of the previous owners of all of our assets. And we've put together a really experienced team, not only in finding, but also financing, developing and operating these mines, which can be a little bit tricky. So I think that's really, really important. Quick corporate overview. We've been around for a long time, so we do have quite a few shares on issue. Share price is around just over 5 cents at the moment, so market cap's about 165 million, and we had about $11 million in the bank at the end of the last financial year, so it's enough to get us through the feasibility studies. We'll obviously need to raise some more money, when we press the button on the restart at Black Swan, a combination of debt and equity, and hopefully by then we'll be doing that at a much higher share price. Our major shareholders are Black Mountain, which is a private group out of the US, which have been around. They own some of the Lanfranchi asset. I actually sold it to them some years ago when I was still at Panoramic. Wyloo, which was Forrest. Forrest was actually, Andrew was the chairman of Poseidon some years ago. After he stepped out of Anaconda before he got into iron ore, he came back into nickel through what was Niagara, which became Poseidon, so he was a big supporter back then. They've sold down. I mean, obviously there's been liquidity events and they've been looking to invest elsewhere, so it's understandable, and he's been a great supporter in the past. And then we've got lots and lots of mums and dads. We've got 14,000 shareholders, so we've got a great lot of mums and dads supporters, and I do get a lot of emails from them from time to time. And look, our share price has pretty much tracked the nickel price, sort of up and then back down again recently. What we have got is a really experienced board. It's great having Derek on the board. He joined just before I did a couple of years ago. Most of you will know Derek's a lawyer, but great experience with Sandfire and now Chalice. Well experienced in base metals and has a fantastic governance and industry focus. There's obviously myself, a bit of a master of everything, having that sort of industrial chemistry experience, but I've financed and developed and operated a lot of sulfide mines. Dean, who was representing Black Mountain, he's now gone off to do something else, but he's very experienced in accounting and financing and developing, so that's been great. Pete Michelli, a lot of you know Peter, ex-MD of Mincor, very successful explorer, worked up in the Kimberley, not with me, but with other groups, and fantastic to have his experience with nickel sulfides and also running base metal companies. And just recently Warren's joined. Warren's a metallurgist, also a fellow Melbourneian like myself, and Warren, ex-Western Mining, very experienced in nickel and obviously other base metals when he was at Metals X, and it's great to have him on board and really complemented the team on the executive, and really has already got his hands rolled up and dirty. And then the executive team, and look, clearly I'm just a director of traffic, and I just pull all the team together and have and enjoy everyone's time and attitude and hard work. Brendan, who's not here today, unfortunately, but he's been a fantastic asset, very experienced. The guy works 24/7. I get emails from him at 3 o'clock in the morning. Pete, what about this? I said, yeah, I'll deal with that when I wake up. We've got a great exploration team. We've got John Hicks, who worked with me at Panoramic. He discovered Savannah North. He discovered Lanfranchi's big deposit at the Deakin, over 2 million tonnes at about 2.5% nickel, 60,000 tonnes of nickel, about 300 metres away from where Western Mining had been exploring for 30 years. And it took someone like John to come along, have a look at all the geology and say, look, we should put a hole in here. First hole, 80 metres of 2.5% nickel. So John's what I would describe as a nickel sulfide whisperer, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying that. Craig Jones has recently joined us. Craig just recently came out of Bellevue. Craig worked with me at Panoramic on the restart a couple of years ago. Very, very experienced guy, and it's great to have him on board. We've got Dave Maxton, who's a metallurgist, very experienced operator. I mean, this guy loves nickel sulfide so much, I'm pretty sure he sprinkles on his cornflakes in the morning. We've got Karen Parker, who's recently joined us. Karen was a geologist. She went to be a school teacher, then she's come back to the industry again, and she's, being a school teacher, she's keeping us all in line. And she's looking after everyone at the house, at Diggers and Dealers. So thanks, Karen, for keeping everybody in check, making sure we all get out of bed and get on time to the various presentations. And then you can see Anthony's face there as well. Look, Anthony knows everyone in Kalgoorlie, probably everyone in Western Australia. And if you want to buy something for the mine, and he'll find a place to get it about half price, pretty much everything. So he's keeping the costs right down, which is fantastic. We've got a really good, there's a lot of other people I can't mention that are in the team. Quite a few of them are here today. There's also someone who recently just left, and that's Andy Pearce. He was our exploration manager. He's gone off to work for Nickel Search. Andy did a good job when we drilled out Golden Swan just recently, and also the drill out of some of the extension for the open pit resource. Andy also was the one that got us the Helly Hansen jackets. Now, we've been getting a lot of feedback on the jackets. I think everyone's been asking, where do you get these jackets from? So Andy was the one that brought them to our attention. We went and got everyone a jacket. So everyone that works for us, all of our consultants have got one, the board have got one, and there's one other person who's got them, and that's Craig Carter. You've probably seen Craig. It's quite a large jacket, which is great. So it's got a really big Poseidon thing on there. And everyone's been asking me, how do you get a jacket? How does Carts get it? Well, Carts raised us $38 million over the last couple of years. So if you're in the audience today and you're a broker or somebody else, if you want to write a check out or send us a TT for $38 million, I'll send you one of those Helly Hansen jackets. So thanks, Carts, for sharing that with us. So look, nickel. I mean, everyone's been talking about it. It really is. When I've been in the nickel business for 30 years, and it was always, nickel is mostly used for making stainless steel. About 70% of the world's nickel every year goes into making stainless, and it's been growing at a compound rate of about 5% since 1970. So when you had sort of strong China growth, stainless steel was growing, nickel demand was good, the nickel price was up. And as soon as things slowed down, stainless steel demand slowed up a bit, the nickel price would fall away. Now all of a sudden you've got a complete change. Stainless steel's still growing at 5%, and we'll probably keep doing that, as long as we're all here. But what has happened is this electric vehicle story, and it really has caught everybody by surprise. And I was just reading in the last couple of days a book by James Dyson, the guy that invented that Dyson vacuum cleaner, and he's been out doing lots of other things since then, and he was looking at doing a car. And he said that one of the main changes was in 2015 we had that Dieselgate situation with Volkswagen, everyone will remember that. And what actually happened, that just really transformed. I don't think anybody, certainly not the car manufacturers, thought they'd have to change so quickly, but they kind of kicked themselves an own gold, and they really had to completely, because they were all involved to some extent or other in this sort of situation, and they really had to change their focus very quickly to electric vehicles. And I think it certainly caught all of us in the industry by surprise. It certainly caught them by surprise. And ever since then, they've been playing catch up. And then all the governments around the world started to basically mandate. Norway was first, all electric by 2025. Germany, the UK brought forward, by 2030. All around the world just changed very quickly. And we've seen it in lithium, we've seen it in nickel especially. Anything to do with this electric vehicle, there is going to be a shortage of this material. And you've seen just recently all these deals that Ford's been doing and all the car manufacturers, and we've only just seen the start of that. And I think what you are going to see is a lot more nickel developed. I mean, it's going to come from Indonesia, but a lot of it's going to come from Australia, and a lot of it's going to come from this part of the world. And so that's the exciting thing. And I heard Duncan's talk just before about this first mover advantage, and as we know, the cost of doing things has gone up exorbitantly. So if you've got plants and you only have to refurbish them, then you really are at the front of the pack, and that's where we're going to be. So we've got 3 projects, all of them in Western Australia. We've got Black Swan, which I worked on back in the 90s, very successful operation, MPI, Lion Ore, then the Russians, and then obviously we picked it up from Norilsk. Lake Johnson, another very successful operation, another Lion Ore asset that went into Norilsk, and we picked that up again very cheaply. I think we only paid a couple of $1 million for it. And then the old Windarra asset, which was the start of the nickel boom back in '69, the first nickel boom. and that project was also a significant producer, about 80,000 tonnes of nickel over its life, and then obviously been shut down and put on care and maintenance. So 3 wonderful assets, all within striking distance of Kalgoorlie. I missed Victor's presentation from Panoramic the other day, but I heard he talked about him being the king of the north. You've got Peter Bradford, supposedly the king of the south. I think we're the kings of Middle Earth. We've got all these projects very, very close to Kalgoorlie, right in the middle, and we're ready to go. So what's the strategy? What we want to do is we want to be in production as soon as we can, and we're targeting initially a sort of a 15,000 tonnes of contained nickel from Black Swan and also from Lake Johnson, and then augmenting that potentially with feed coming out of Windarra. So let's talk about Black Swan first. Historically, about 180,000 tonnes of nickel from the high-grade Silver Swan, which we discovered in MPI back in the mid-90s, and then obviously the open pit that was mined by the Russians, and then prior to the operation being closed when the nickel price was sub $5 a pound. You can see the plant in the photograph there. There's a SAG mill and a ball mill. We've been looking at a high-grade underground resource at Silver Swan, also some tailings from the old Silver Swan project, which are relatively high grade, and then the big open pit, which is a lower grade resource, but there's 180,000 tonnes of nickel, so quite exciting. And what we've been looking at initially, we thought maybe we could start off just doing some high grade, DSO, maybe selling that down to BHP at Kambalda, but realistically it would make money, but it's suboptimal, so we've sort of parked that one. And then we've been talking about this fill the mill strategy. Initially a 1.1 million tonne case, but also potentially going to 2.2 million tonnes. And both of those are being studied at the moment. And that's off the back of this ore body here. You can see, so the red is the open pit ore body. The yellow in the middle is this new area, which we call the Southern Terrace, and that bit in the middle there, you can just see that red, that's that new ore body that Andy drilled out, which was called Golden Swan. I mean, we were hoping for it to be a bit bigger. It's about 6,000 tonnes of nickel, but potentially that's opened up a whole new area. So we need to get the nickel whisperer Hixie onto that a bit more and really see if we can find something else there. And then there's all the bottom of Silver Swan there in the red below the purple, which is the undeveloped part of that ore body which still exists. So potentially you could be mining from the open pit and also those underground ore bodies as well. There's the big open pit that's already been mined down about 120 metres below surface. It's got a bit of water in it. We've actually just started the pumps in the last couple of weeks, so that'll take about 4 months to de-water. So that's in preparation for the restart. And you can see there's a lot of measured material, indicated and inferred. So, there's nearly 30,000 tonnes potentially, 30 million tonnes of ore in that pit. So the development options we've got are really around a smelter grade concentrate. So that's the 1.1 million tonne case. So that would be taking open pit material and high grade Silver Swan underground, blending it with a bit of tailings, and that gives us a saleable concentrate in the traditional sense. That would be to a smelter, and so that would be needing to have an iron MgO ratio of better than 3 to 1, nickel concentrate grade of sort of plus 12%, and I mean obviously that, and then not too many nasties, and that's probably around about a 5-year life if you like. And then you've got the other option, which is the 2.2 million tonne case, where you go basically mine all of that serpentinite and also the talc material, put it all together and basically run it about a 50-50, bring in the Silver Swan material as well, and that you could fill up the 2.2 million, the SAG mill and the ball mill combination, and you would produce a rougher concentrate, which wouldn't be really that suitable for a smelter, but certainly very suitable for pressure oxidation. And this is very exciting because if you look around the world now, what everyone's doing, whether it's HPAL or sulfides, they are looking at producing mixed hydroxide precipitate and then putting that through into the battery system to produce precursor PCAM. Our friends at Pure Battery, who we have an MOU with, are looking at building a refinery here in Western Australia, in Kalgoorlie, again right in the middle of Middle Earth, and they're looking at producing PCAM. That project has already got a $120 million grant from the government under the Critical MMI Grants Initiative, and that's a really exciting opportunity for us. So we are working very closely with them at the moment, and as they're bringing their feasibility study along, so are we. And we really hope that project gets up and running because that is really a game changer for the whole of the Western Australian nickel sulfides, and we're really excited about that opportunity and we're working very closely with them. So our bankable feasibility study is well underway. Busy slide. Just to summarise it, basically most of the work streams are over 50% completed, some of them are 75%. we'll have the 1.1 million tonne feasibility study case finished in September, and the 2.2 million will come after that. So we're well advanced on both of those. Just quickly, I've got a minute to talk about all the other things that we've got in the system. So Lake Johnson, historically a mine, produced about, I think, nearly 100,000 tonnes of nickel in concentrate over about a 10-year period, replaced on care and maintenance at about the same time as 2014. We picked it up cheaply. GRs have already done a scoping study, around about $35 million to get it going again. That number will obviously go up a little bit. An operating cost of 36, you could be back in production here, producing ore initially from the underground, but there's also a lot of exploration potential here as well. And there's a slide there. It's a very busy slide, but it just shows you there's a lot of opportunities there. New Exco, who are our consultants, have had a good look at that, and they've done a very detailed report, and there's half a dozen areas around Abbey Rose, Maggie Hayes, Emily Ann, which was 3.5% nickel, this Vision area, and also the Western Komatiite. We actually do have a POW that's been approved to do some drilling there, and it's about a $2 million program. We're just going to finish off the feasibility study on Black Swan, just in terms of allocating of capital at the moment. We want to keep the focus there, so I'll probably look to drill that next year. And then finally, but by no means least, Mount Windarra, another 80,000 tonnes of nickel mined out of there between 74 and 83 by Western Mining, put on care and maintenance, completely rehabbed the site. The original old shaft is there, but the mill's gone. There's a gold tailings project where we're almost finalised a deal with a third party there for a JV, which we hopefully can announce in a couple of weeks. But the real future there for us, we see in terms of our operations, is someone can run the gold for us and we can earn some cash out of that. But really for us, it could be potentially producing nickel or maybe putting an ore sorter there. Warren's had a lot of experience of that down at Renison, and then taking that ore down to Black Swan, putting it through the mill there, and obviously increasing the production profile. So very exciting, real terms opportunity. Just last, why invest in Poseidon? They are very advanced projects with all that infrastructure there, and we're talking about tens of millions of dollars to get them restarted rather than hundreds of millions of dollars. Tier 1 jurisdiction, we've talked a lot about that today. Others have very, very short time frame from decision to proceed to actually producing nickel. And finally, we've got a team that can actually do it. And as you saw before, we are very undervalued. Market cap of $160 million with 400,000 tonnes of nickel across those three resources, all of which are permitted, tailings dams, mills. We are on the cusp of really developing and operating these projects. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pete. I think in the interest of time, we'll keep on moving.